In a few weeks' time, the leader of the Scottish National Party will launch a referendum campaign on independence. It all leads up to 2014, when Scots will go to the polls to vote on whether they should break away from Great Britain and end a relationship that predates Canadian Confederation by almost 2 centuries. As a lifelong Quebecer, 16x9's Mike Armstrong is used to talk of referendums, and he, like almost 5 million other Canadians, traces his roots back to Scotland.
On a sunny Sunday afternoon, the small town of Hawick remembers its history. The annual Reivers Festival is a look back at a time when this part of Scotland was a very dangerous place. The Scottish Reivers were raiders based on the border with England. They robbed and plundered ruthlessly, stealing from the English no dastardly deed beneath them. One of their legacies, the word blackmail, came from the chainmail armor they wore. Over centuries, the relationship with England changed from enemies to partners in the United Kingdom.
Do we have a hold end of the pike? Ready?
But today, Scots are wondering if their nation is strong enough to go it alone.
Scots are proud of being Scots. More so in the last few years. Something's happened to the Scots people. Something's changed in them.
The border between Scotland and England isn't much of a border at all. Without the signs, you wouldn't even know it was there. In the area around the Scottish village of Gretna Green, the line is the River Sark. It does not feel like a line that could soon separate two countries. This bridge straddles the border, as do families in the area like Tracy Cordley's.
My son goes to a Scottish school, whereas my daughter goes to an English college.
And your husband works?
In England.
And you work?
Scotland, yeah.
I think I've got it straight, but it's a little confusing.
Yeah.
Scottish border towns are sort of a British Niagara Falls. Weddings are an industry. The age of consent for marriage has been lower in Scotland than in England since the mid-1700s. There are marriage halls as soon as you cross the border. Well, the talk these days isn't about weddings, it's about divorce, the political kind. In the fall of 2014, Scots will go to the polls to decide whether to pull out of Great Britain.
Representing 80% of the ballot.
Last year, they elected to a majority, what we'd call in Canada, a separatist party. Bruce Crawford is a member of the Scottish National Party. He's also Minister of Government Strategy and will be a main player for the yes side in the referendum campaign. Even 2 years out, he's primed for a battle.
Oh, this is the most exciting time to be involved in politics in Scotland for 300 years.
The big issues here aren't what Canadians are used to. Independence isn't about protecting language or culture as much as a desire by Scots to simply control their own affairs.
Who are the people most likely to care most about the decisions affecting the community that is Scotland? And that's actually the people of Scotland themselves.
The roots of Scottish nationalism are deep. From the pen of poet Robbie Burns to the sword of warrior William Wallace. Braveheart was a Hollywood movie, but the real battle happened in the town of Stirling. The blood was spilled on this spot in 1297. Statues of Wallace and Robert the Bruce stand outside Stirling Town Hall. They are very much Mayor David Linden's heroes.
That's the guy that started the Wars of Independence, and that's the guy that finished them.
The timing of the 2014 referendum is intentional. It'll be the 700th anniversary of Robert the Bruce's victory over the English king.
That battle basically shaped the nation.
How much discomfort, if any, is there at separating from Great Britain, which is the flag you grew up under?
What is a flag? It's a piece of cloth that flies at the top of a mast.
Just a short drive south of the town of Hawick and its Reivers Festival is Langham, home of one of the most feared Reiver clans, the Armstrongs. This was the home of Johnny Armstrong in the 1500s, likely a very, very distant relative. The men who keep the clan trust alive were nice enough to give us a private tour, although they did make me pay. But their opinions were enlightening. Scott Armstrong, again no relation, says between whiskey and oil, Scottish industry is strong enough for independence.
I think Scotland can stand on its own 2 feet.
Armstrong prefers to fly the St. Andrew's Cross, Scotland's national flag, rather than the Union Jack, and says he'll vote yes, but he's not sure he's right. He says his vote would be with his heart, not his head.
I think it's, on the whole, I think it's a bad thing being separated.
But you're for it?
Yeah.
It's an incredibly emotional debate, and the referendum is still more than 2 years away. Well, it can't come soon enough for some. The Camerons say they're ready for Caledonia, the Latin word for Scotland, to break away.
Caledonia's been everything I've ever had.
The folk song Caledonia has become an unofficial anthem for Scottish nationalists. Nicole Cameron's family is pro-independence. Her mother, an SNP town councillor. Her friends, she says, more motivated by the day.
Young people are starting to wake up and really see that it affects them, rather than take a back seat and saying, well, politics doesn't matter.
There are many parallels with the Canadian experience. The Scottish National Party, for example, sends MPs to London, much like the Bloc Québécois. None of the similarities are lost on this man. Luke Skipper was born and raised in southwestern Ontario. He's now Chief of Staff to an SNP Member of Parliament. In fact, the MP who's the referendum campaign manager. Do you think people know the tension that they're in for?
There is that capacity within the Scottish body politic to have a discussion that's robust, but maintains a level of decorum.
Sensitive, but friendly.
I think so.
I don't believe in breaking people apart.
Over drinks in a Glasgow pub, we sat down with the other side, members of the Scottish Labour Party's youth wing. They are not, they insist, less proud or patriotic than anyone else.
We're not a backward country. We've always been there doing what we think is right.
The argument from the pro-union side is that while Scotland could take over more powers, it doesn't need full independence. Already Scots have programs the English don't. Free university tuition, free prescriptions for seniors. Scotland also doesn't need a divisive debate added to the one they already have. They take their soccer, football, very seriously. Is it fair for me to say that there's more anger over football than there is over politics?
Oh, yes, definitely.
That would be surprising to Canadians. Oh, that's the case, huh?
Yes,
Wow.
and that's much more in the mindset of the people of Scotland than what the
It's more likely to get people angry.
Yes, definitely.
Now, just as Canadians face the possibility down the road of another Quebec referendum, the 2014 vote in Scotland may not settle this debate either. Can the yes side simply call referendums until they win one? Well, the SNP will only promise, if it loses, to put independence on the back burner for a while. You'd have to expect people on the other side to say, we would like a promise that there won't be another referendum if you lose.
We're not going to lose, so I'm not going to get myself into that speculation. But, you know, I think when we win it, it'll be settled for a lot longer than a generation.
If a picture tells 1,000 words, this man's written a book.